Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our wonderful keynote speaker for today. I'm Jo van Herwegen. I'm a member of the board and I'm a professor at UCL. And it gives me great pleasure this morning to introduce Professor Kathy Hirsh-Pasek, who's here today to talk about active playful learning. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her, if that's okay. So you may already know a lot of this information. She is the Stanley and Deborah Lefkowitz Faculty Fellow in the Department of Psychology at Temple University and a Senior Fellow at the Brookings Institution. She's internationally recognized for her groundbreaking research in early child development, language learning, and playful learning. She has been honored with a number of awards, including the Sims Man Award, and she was elected a member of the National Academy of Education in 2021. Her work has not only shaped the scientific understanding of how children learn, but also the design of educational practices and policies around the world. With more than a dozen books and over 250 publications, she has been a driving force in bringing rigorous developmental science into classrooms, museums, and even city planning. And I'm really interested in that one. I love the fact that you kind of have like urban, playful areas.
So fun.
So fun. Yeah. There's some other fun facts, though. Her latest book, Making Schools Work, was co-written with teachers and administrators and scientists. And her book, Becoming Brilliant, which is more about preschoolers, reached the New York Times bestsellers list. Now, I want to tell a little bit more about beyond academia, because Kathy is known as a passionate advocate for play, as a powerful vehicle for learning. And her grandson is actually her assistant and creator to help her with that.
My 8-year-old, he's awesome.
There you go. She also told me another couple of fun facts. She has 3 fantastic sons who are all very established in their fields. One is a musician. Yeah. And you've got 2.5 grandchildren.
It's true. It's true. Everybody always knows the musician, but they don't know. The real news is that I have 2 professors in the family. All right?
You're training them young, from 8 years old onwards, helping you with your research.
That's right.
And that's how it goes. Now, she's here to talk to us today about playful learning landscapes projects, about how you can change everyday environments such as public squares and public places and transform them into rich learning opportunities that promote equity and engagement for all children. I'm sure in her keynote she'll tell us all about it, and so please join me in giving a warm welcome to our keynote. She's a leader, an innovator, and an inspiration in the field of child development. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you all. It truly is a pleasure to be here and to meet so many new faces. I also want to thank you for getting me out of the U.S. This is like a big deal right now. Please, any professor you know, welcome them. Tell them they can come here. Wherever here is better than where we are. Okay, so also to say thank you to our many colleagues. No kidding, you have all responded so readily to the crisis that we're facing in the U.S. by opening up slots in your country for researchers. I can't thank you enough for all my colleagues, all my students, and all my postdocs. You really do make a difference. Keep it going, keep it going. So as you heard, I'm going to talk to you today about active playful learning, joyful teaching, and deeper learning in and out of school. And I want to start with a quote that I saw from Yuval Noah Harari, the famous author, who said, "The Industrial Revolution has bequeathed us the production line theory of education. It is easy to laugh at this model, and almost everyone agrees that no matter its past achievements, it is now bankrupt." And you're seeing a crisis all over the world as we are trying to figure out what should education look like in a world of AI, in a digital world. How are we going to outsmart the robots? I've seen this in the US, I've seen it in Europe, I'm working with UNESCO and policymakers there, where we are asking the question, how do we take the science of learning that you all have generated and think about ways to transform education? Everyone's in on it, guys. The OECD's in on it, UNESCO's in on it, the World Bank is in on it, and thank you. You are making a difference. So let me start with a bold premise. This is very bold, so stay with me for just a moment here. If we teach in the way that human brains learn, kids will learn better. You don't seem shocked by that. So let me say it again. If we teach in the way that human brains learn, we believe children will learn better. Full stop. Okay, now the science actually has some guidelines, some characteristics about how human brains learn. We don't learn when we're passively sitting there as if we have nothing to offer in the classroom. So that sage on the stage model of sitting in the front of the classroom and blabbing at people like I'm doing right now doesn't really work, especially the younger you go. Next, it needs to be engaging. They need to want to learn it or they're not going to learn it. Hence, why video games and some television shows do a little bit better than the teachers, right? Because they want to watch, and watch. How do we break that and become the teachers who are at least teaching them to love to learn? How do we engage them rather than distract them? Which is, by the way, what a lot of video does. How do we make it meaningful? What does that mean to be meaningful to a kid? What does it mean to include their culture, their community, what their parents care about? Notice this will also help us with homeschool communication. What does it mean to have kids be more socially interactive? I've heard this in all my discussions I've had with all of you. Yes, kids have something to offer. They're great when they're talking with other kids and when they're having discussions in classrooms. Right now, discussions aren't happening. Sorry, I know Finland, you're doing a great job of it. But the rest of us, we have a lot to learn from you. It should be iterative in that we teach the same thing a couple of times, but using different highways in. And finally, yes, school can be joyful. In the United States, if you ask people, tell me, what's the first word that comes to mind in English when I say school? Do you want to know what the answer is? Okay, you guessed it. I don't even have to tell you. I don't even have to tell you. So if I have these characteristics and I add a learning goal to these characteristics, boom, I have something that's very powerful. And about maybe 20 years ago, I realized something remarkable. If this is the way human brains learn, guess what it parallels? Play. Isn't that shocking? This is what happens during play. Now, when we focus on how children learn, we support what they need to learn in school and in life. And that's a big question we need to ask ourselves. What do kids need to know today? And I would bet that it's not just what's on the PISA exam. Oh, I'm sure I said something wrong there. Okay, but just memorizing content and spitting it out is not going to make kids smarter than robots. And we have to deal with that. By the way, I don't know where we're going to be in AI 5 years from now. But I can tell you right now, we don't know anything. We know virtually nothing about what this impact is going to be on teachers and what it's going to be on kids, except we know that AI hallucinates a lot. And if kids can't tell the junk from the reality, it's a problem. And by the way, sometimes teachers can't, and we have to help there. All right, so we came up with what in English turns out to be the 6 C's. And yes, you will see that I shoehorned some with permission from our colleagues. Okay, the first thing, maybe the most important thing in a school environment, is kids have to learn how to get along. They have to learn how to build relationships with other people. That is the foundation. Because once you have relationships, you start to have communication. And communication skills are critical. By the way, you may notice this is exactly what businesses are asking for right now. And the third skill is content. I just want to stop here for 1 sec to tell you that if you don't, as a young child, have good relationships so that you have back and forth communication, you're not going to get literally the brain growth you need to have good communication skills, nor will you have the vocabulary that you need for good communication skills. And I don't care how much phonics you teach, if you don't have the vocabulary and it doesn't translate back into something in your language, the kid won't get anything out of it. Like, I know the Greek alphabet, I just don't know what it means when I do my phonics on it. Not good enough. From content, we move to, and there's a lot of you in the audience today, you are working on critical thinking. How do we figure out critical thinking? And by the way, little kids have critical thinking. I know that sounds shocking. I must give you one example of critical thinking in a little dude, okay? I had a problem with my 3-year-old granddaughter at one point where she called me with an emergency. Now, seriously, 3-year-olds don't have emergencies. But this was the emergency. The ball rolled under the couch. She told me on the phone that she could not reach it with her projected arm. What? Like, really? Okay, so I said, oh, your projected arm isn't long enough. I wonder what we can do about that. She said, I don't know. I can't reach the ball. I said, well, maybe we need to extend your projected arm. And she goes into the kitchen and gets a wonderful spatula. And she returns, and she said, my projected arm and the spatula are not long enough. I said, critical thinking, honey. What are we going to do next? Got a broom, the ball came out, crisis over. Yes, they have critical thinking. Creative innovation, right? They can't create something new if they don't have the content and if they can't think critically about it. And finally, here's the biggest shoehorn of them all, confidence. Confidence for us contains growth mindset. Yes, we did get Carol Dweck's permission to do that. And it includes grit. And yes, Angela Duckworth said it was okay to shove it in here. So that's the 6 C's. And I strongly encourage us to think about a breadth of skills when we think about what we want as a portrait of a graduate from our school, from our preschool, from our formal school. What should kids be able to do when they graduate? Now, from the home to the school to the neighborhood to the broader community, our success needs to align with the context the kids live in and the context they're going to live in. And all of this leads to what I will call, and rely on for the rest of this talk, the 3-part equation. 1, the who. The who is knowing community and family values to help with homeschool connections. It's important that we have those because kids learn better, all the research says, when we do. Number 2, the how of learning. How active, engaged, meaningful, socially interactive, it's how brains learn. And with a strong learning goal, our kids will learn better. And 3, the 6 C's. All right, so with that as a backdrop, we have applied that equation and the science to what we call learning landscapes, which is playful learning landscapes. I'll show you a little bit of examples of playful learning landscapes. That's out in communities because guess what? Today, learning doesn't just exist in a classroom. Number 2, we apply it in classrooms, and I'll show you about a big national study that I'm engaged in right now, thank God, with European money. So the study is still going to exist for the next 3 years. And we wrote a little bit about it with teachers and with administrators in our book, Making Schools Work. And we are also applying it to digital media and an understanding of how to make the best digital media. So let me tell you what I mean by active playful learning or guided play. That is at the crux of everything. And one of the things I have noticed throughout some of the talks here is that when we use the term play, it's off-putting often because we're so broad in what we're talking about. Play, playfulness, maybe you're just happy. I think we need to do better because as scientists, if we don't have a strong operational definition, we cannot test it. Everyone cool with that? All right, so I'm going to give you that. All right, here is what I've constructed with my colleagues. When it has an explicit learning goal, it's definitely not free play. it is guided play, and it is direct instruction. Direct instruction being person in front of class blabbing at people behind. When it's initiated by the child, it is free play, but it is not guided play or playful instruction or direct instruction. When the child, however, has agency within the environment, it is free play and guided play and playful instruction, but not direct instruction. Notice that agency or active. And when the kid has choice, yes, it's in free play and guided play, but not in playful instruction or in direct instruction. Now here's another way I sometimes look at it, as you can see here. If it's initiated by the child and it's directed by the child, that's building a fort in your living room. Everyone got it? Yeah, y'all with me so far? When you have something that is initiated by a child and the adult comes in, and watch how many teachers do. Oh, you're drawing a picture of your family. No, I'm not. Kid stops. Okay? That's the best way to kill anything, is to presume you know what the kid is doing rather than asking what the kid is doing. We call that co-opted play. Over here, when it's initiated by an adult, directed by an adult, it's direct instruction. And when it's initiated by an adult, but the child is the one directing the learning. Think Montessori. Think a children's museum, where you are the one who designs your classroom. You design the activity, but the kids have some agency within it. That's what we mean by guided play. And you have a clear learning goal that you are after, reducing, I can say this in a scientific group, the degrees of freedom. Because with too many degrees of freedom, you won't get the learning goal. If you just send kids out in the backyard and say, I expect you to come back as a reader, it's unlikely to happen. I know there are some people who believe that, but I do not. All right, so as I said, guided play has a learning goal. It has a planned play environment. You can also enhance children's exploration by asking them questions. We call those open-ended questions. Not what color is it, but what are you doing? What do you think that will do? Okay? And you can get some very rich answers from kids if you ask your questions in this way. May I deviate for a guided play example? So on our trip to Europe, my creative assistant is with me, my 8-year-old, and I have taken him to a number of castles. So I was teaching him how to write an essay last night. You know, have a broad statement, then 3 bits of evidence, and then a closing statement. And he's getting it. And one of the things I ask is, well, what would you do if someone was attacking your castle? Give me 3 ways to prevent the castle from being attacked. Then we turned it around on him. And we said, what are you going to do to make your castle safe from the attackers? And he's now, because I asked open-ended questions, I knew what I wanted the box to be, but he's the one who's adding the information in the box. Now, research suggests that this kind of active playful learning has effects on emotional regulation and collaboration. I just saw this in a number of beautiful talks. In language and literacy, communication, in STEM, content, in hypothesis testing, critical thinking, and even in creativity. And we've seen some beautiful papers at this very conference on that. So let's just look at the evidence. I'm going to do this as a drive-by so that you just get a flavor that it's actually here. Impulse and emotional control, planning, self-reliance, attention and memory. Beautiful data from Chile on that I heard this morning. Let me introduce you to Meg McClellan. You probably already know Meg. She's wonderful. She came up with a beautiful book, Stop, Think, Act, where she has people conducting an orchestra. And when they conduct the orchestra, they have to pay attention to what you're doing and what the other people are doing in order to go along with the orchestra. Same is true with a drum circle. These things actually matter. In fact, she was one of the authors in a paper, you won't believe this one, but just playing Simon Says, red light, green light. You know, when you're happy and you know it, these things are building executive function skills. And giving choice is a key component to supporting kids' executive function skills. How about with learning and cognitive skills? telling stories, wordplay, singing songs, dialogical reading. I mean, imagine what you can teach through this. And of course, I had to study it. So in one of our studies, we had kids in circle time, but then we broke the kids out of circle time, because too much circle time is just like direct instruction. And kids, at least in the US, are doing that 70% of the time. Okay, I know, it's incredible. Break them out into groups. We gave one group free play, one group directed play, and one group guided play, where we gave them all the stuff, which was in The Knight and the Dragon, and they got the knights and they got the dragons, and we asked them for the next step and what was the story about, and what do you think happened? Here's the results. What we found is that the worst case was actually free play. That's why I say we have to be so careful. And that's why I'm using guided play or active guided play. I've been told by my colleagues in Germany that when they just used play, the teachers didn't get it. And as a result of not getting it, they did free play. Boom! You can see it's not as good. Get that? Okay, so we need to have the adult support and setting up the environment, or the kids aren't going to get the outcomes. What we did then is we used different play activities, singing, large and small group games, drama, digital. And guess what? Our kids all learned the target vocabulary, but here's a kicker. They remembered the target vocabulary, even after a week. It wasn't like when you take your exams and then tomorrow you have no idea what was on the exam. So why not make it great? What about block play? This amazed me. Do you know that if I just dump blocks in front of you, you start to use more spatial terms? Around, through, put the green one on top of, next to, through. And when you're using that, you're setting up the kid for number learning. That's kind of amazing, right? How could that be true? Well, think about it. In the brain, they're kind of represented in the same place, space and number. That's a recent finding. And the reason is because a lot of this is related to the number line. And by the way, kids take to it quickly, very quickly. I was recently in Colombia, and I was in a classroom where they didn't have, I said, just give me paper, I'll show you what the number line can do. They didn't have paper. I said, oh, okay, do you have chalk? No, we don't have chalk. But the ground of the school was made with dirt, okay? So I went into the dirt, got on my hands and knees, I drew a number line, I drew hash marks on the number lines. All of a sudden, the kids, well, you know what kids do with a number line, right? When they see it, they jump. Who can jump the farthest? Who's taller? Who's shorter? They're measuring, they're doing math. Wow, it turned it all around. So it's related to later spatial ability and math ability. We test it using a 2D test of spatial ability with the fancy name TOSA, not so fancy. And you can see we do this with either stickers or we do it with Legos, and we just have kids do copy designs. And if they can get it with the rotation, we know they're learning something about space. Their ability to do this at age 3 predicts 0.78, accounts for 0.78 of the variability of their math score at entry to school. Kind of shocking, right? And a recent study confirms our findings that guided play, but not free play, even offers kids a self-concept that they're a scientist, that they can do science. Amazing. People like Alison Gopnik have also found that play is related to critical thinking and creativity. And here is a beautiful synopsis was done out of Cambridge University last year by Skeen et al. And you can see all the effect sizes for the things that are impacted by guided play, looking at a meta-analysis of all the data to date. It's pretty impressive, isn't it? And we've only just begun. Okay, so now you might ask, could this possibly work in a classroom? Well, let's start with how kids around the world are spending their days. Now, I'm giving you data from the US because I don't have it from Europe, but any of you who want to do it, please send it my way, because right now, it ain't so good out there. This is what it looked like when we did a 3-hour instructional block in US kindergartens and first grades last year. And this was from a sample of 49 different classrooms, 1,100 observations. I want you to see that this parallels what was found in Dale Farron's well-known study, now known as the Tennessee study. Okay, so here you go. You're kidding, right? You're kidding that they're spending 50% of their time sitting in rows listening to an adult talk. You're supposed to go, ugh, at that point. Like, aren't you dying? When I first saw this data. Okay, but don't worry. 26% of the time is because they're so anxious and can't sit there that they're doing non-academic work. We're up to 76% of your school hours. Well, no wonder 16% more of the time, taking you to 92%, you are looking up in the air, looking out the window, trying to think of anything to do because it's so boring. And then you might ask, is anybody like talking to other kids? And there it is, a full 5% of the time. And another 2%, they get to be social at all. This data almost made me cry. But from what I understand from my colleagues and from people at the OECD, other than Finland, we're seeing this all over the world. And this simply has to change. So we decided to help it change with funding from the LEGO Foundation. We're doing a very large study in the United States. What you may not know is that school districts in the United States are not controlled nationally. It's by district, and the districts are controlled by the states. And since we no longer have a Department of Education, that is non-relevant at this point, but we're doing 80 teachers, 40 of which are getting personalized coaching, 40 of which are getting what we're calling self-paced, and I'll show you in a minute what that means. We have 2 to 3 teachers per grade, and we're going from kindergarten, which is about 6-year-olds, up to 4th grade, which is around 10 years of age, okay? And we're in 4 states, California, Illinois, Virginia, and Texas, and we have a data collector team from all of the states and coaches who are centralized and trained by us to train the coaches in the states who then work directly with the schools. So, how are we focusing on this? After 6 months, and if I told you the names of all of the amazing professors, probably the top scientists in the US, came together to help me and frame this study. So this is not my work. This is work from really a consortium of people who are the amazing scientists, the most amazing scientists in this field in the US. We came up with 6 behaviors. If you could change these 6 behaviors in a classroom, we think kids would learn more. 1, use small and paired groups. Oh, that might make them more active and engaged. Increase student contributions to interactions with peers and teachers. Support hands-on, you hear the agency there? Minds-on exploration. Give kids choice and voice in their own learning. Connect their learning, hear the meaningfulness, to their experiences that they actually understand, and infuse enthusiasm and positivity into the classroom. These 6 behaviors, we believe, just these 6 behaviors, if we can coach them around whatever your learning goal is, we don't care, this is a pedagogical model, then we should be able to change classrooms into active, playful learning classrooms. The first bit of data I'm going to show you is on 42 teachers. We began to just see if this could work at all, because everyone in this room knows how very, very hard it is to change teacher behavior. And these were some of the results. This is what teachers are saying. Wow, it really changed collaboration in my classroom. It changed critical thinking. Look what the kids are doing. It's incredible. I have better relationships with my kids. This is just a sampling, but look at this. This is just from the first 42. This is a continuous improvement model. So as we learn each year what's working, we're putting that into how we're coaching so that it's getting better and better each year. The observations of the classroom seem to reveal that the coaching worked when they had over 2 months of coaching, red lines. then they did better than groups that only had less than 2 months of coaching. Just note the red lines are bigger than the blue lines. Okay, here we have were the kids making more meaningful connections? Yes, they were. And was there more positivity? Stay tuned. It seems to be working, but it's early. Now, the good news for you is that we spent a lot of time on this, creating a lot of workshops, and we created a lot of outreach materials. In every single state, we do a newsletter that has local stuff about what's going on and stuff about the national study. We have pamphlets, brochures, posters. All of that is available to you guys for free because I worked with the funder to make sure everything would be open source. Just translate it into your language, modify it for your culture. It's yours for the asking. We also have all of our observation protocols. We're happy to share all of that, all of our teacher questionnaires, and the manuals for coaching and study administration. We are also preparing at this point video data so that we can bring people up to criterion. They can see it and see how they would respond. And I'll just say one more thing here, which is I use active playful learning in all my college classes, and it has been magical. My students tell me that they use the 6 C's in all their other classes now, that they become better writers because they're part of determining what we're going to study, how we study it, and the discussions. Well, phew, I should tell you that last week, no, it's 2 weeks ago now, I'm not sure I'm allowed to release this yet, but I'll just give you a hint. Okay, so the hint I will give you is that the teacher data looked equally strong after 2 years of data with 106 teachers, and that we're getting inklings, only inklings, that there's more voice and choice in the classrooms. The coaches are certainly seeing that, and we're seeing that there is more communication from the teacher to the students and the students to the students. So we're getting somewhere, guys. Who knows what it'll be next year when we'll be up to our 320 full sample size. All right, but here's a shocker. I'm not sure this number will hold in Europe, but I think it's going to be pretty close. When you add in summer vacation and school vacations and weekends, kids are only spending 80% of their waking time in school. Let me repeat that. 80% of their waking time are not in school. Yeah, only 20% in school. Whoa, got that wrong. Only 20% of their waking time in school. So one of the questions we should all be asking ourselves is, what are we doing with the other 80%? And that's something where I'd really love your creativity as well, but I wanted to give you some of ours. We decided to take the science of learning in the same 3-part equation and to literally build the science into the built environment where people wait. So we started working with the community. There was a bus stop. It's in a very, very disadvantaged part of Philadelphia, West Philadelphia. We met with the community. We said, hey, we're thinking about doing something really cool with a bus stop. What would you like to see on it? Martin Luther King is an American hero, especially to this community. They said this was a place where he gave a talk. Could we do something about Martin Luther King? Well, we know puzzles build math, right? Spatial to math, remember? So sure, we can work with that. We transformed the bus stop into a playful learning space. 100 community members literally helped us build it. The community members were our data ambassadors. We trained them to collect observational data. And notice here that we got a 28% increase in adult-child language, in targeted spatial language, and in number language use in the activities at the bus stop after we made the transformation. And we compared it to a local playground, and we were 28% higher than that. That's impressive that you can get that. Think about what you've done in intervention studies, guys. Like, we're lucky, right, if we get 21%. Lest I stop and tell you another story, okay? So I went to my class one day, a wonderful class of honors students at my university. And I said, I am so excited. They said, why? Because I taught 7-year-olds 20 words. And after 7 weeks of intervention, they learned 5 of them. My students just had a straight face. I said, don't you realize that that's publishable? It's a highly significant result. Straight face. One kid raises her hand. Are you happy about that? I mean, it might be significant, but is it significant? The data we're getting from Playful Learning Landscapes is off the charts. When we did a supermarket, we put signs up, STEM signs down. 33% increase in math talk when the signs were up versus down. Imagine that. Let me give you a few more examples. In a bus stop in Santa Ana, California, well, they love Martin Luther King, I'm sure, but they had moved from Mexico. They had a game in Mexico called Loteria. Did I get the pronunciation right, guys? I'm looking at you. Okay, thank you. They had a game that they brought called Loteria. They said, could we possibly put Loteria at the bus stop? I said, why not? It'll help you with EF skills, executive function skills. You're on. And here's the bus stop that now sits in Santa Ana, California. We went into libraries. Look at this, a climbing wall in a library? Well, that's unusual. But it's made parents want to come to the library with their kids. And note, they're climbing up letters. They're making words as they go. And God, are they excited. But look carefully on the right. Do you see that we literally carved right into the stacks? We carved some pieces that become the seating. And the seating becomes tangram puzzles. And then, of course, we had to go and study it. Are you kidding? Color, spatial, letter, language increased 44%. Over here, 38% from pre-test to post-test. That's insane. Over here, you're seeing Andy Bustamante. And Andy Bustamante had an idea. He said, hey, would you mind if I went out and painted a basketball court for $65? Roughly equivalent to, 70 euros. So he goes and he paints the basketball court because kids were having a heck of a time learning fractions. Okay? So in the basketball court now, you can see out there to the 1, the 4-4, and you shoot at the 0.75 or the 3-4, the 0.5 or the 2-4, got it all? And you see that line on the side? Some of the kids keep score and you have to add up to a particular number. Got it? So the kids go out to recess, and when they go, 160 kids, 4th to 6th graders, so that's like 10 to 12, four 15-minute periods. So they came in and they aced a decimal to fraction test. The teacher said to me, what am I going to do now? I had planned on teaching this for 3 weeks. I said, well, let them play basketball and have some fun. Okay, here's a little bit from the supermarkets. What you see on the left is a supermarket. I mean, this is crazy stuff, right? We have a cow, and it's like, oh, a lot of things from a cow come from a cow. Can you find other things that come from a cow? Those of you who study critical thinking, guys, you here? Raise your hand if any of you study critical thinking. We have a couple of you. Okay, so guess what? They go through the whole supermarket looking for cottage cheese and sour cream. It's unbelievable. Okay, and it worked in South Africa as well, but we adapted it to South Africa, of course. Now, we also found murals. Here's our mural from Santa Ana, but we created an I Spy game around the mural. Can you see the guided play in that? So it's about the community. It's about active, engaged, meaningful, socially interactive. You got it already. It's my tweet, okay? And it's about the 6 C's. And everyone around the mural is getting together. Old people, young people. It's intergenerational. We created a new piazza. And the kids are all learning while they do it. Here's murals we put in hospital waiting rooms. You want to talk about a boring place to wait? Hospital waiting rooms. Now the kids are all having conversations, telling stories, and learning new vocabulary as they sit waiting in the hospital. And yes, they even asked us if we would help to adapt some of this in Venice, Italy, and we did, and then there was a flood in San Marco Square. But you can see that if you dream, here's a hopscotch. But it's really an executive function task from the happy sad task, and we asked them to put 1 foot where you see 2, and 2 where you see 1. Got it? So as the kids are playing with really small prompts, they're actually learning. And as you can imagine, we've developed a lot of playbooks in multiple languages, Chinese, English, Portuguese. We can put it in any language to get you started. The community's involved in everything that we do. And at Brookings, we wrote the Playful Learning Landscapes metric framework, so you can measure this in the way that we did. And finally, I want to turn to digital apps, the metaverse, AI. Can you apply the three-part equation there? Well, sure you can. I mean, you can ask, is an app meeting the criteria of active and engaged? Is it meaningful? Is it socially interactive, right? Is it iterative? Am I teaching the same thing in multiple ways? Is it joyful? And so I used the three-part equation there too, and we've written on everything. I tried to get ahead of the game with the metaverse to say, here are principles. We can't, as scientists, do things faster than technology can. That should be the lesson from apps and the lesson from what's going on in AI today. But what we can do is we can take principles from the science of learning, and we can encourage the developers to follow scientifically known principles that we as a group develop and have discovered to help make that more educational. We've published a lot in all of this research, and we are now developing, as part of my exit plan, I've just joined as a visiting professor at Oxford University, and we are creating the Oxford University Repository of Children and Family Media so that we can help parents begin to rate the apps that they're looking at according to these criteria. What's the key? The key is that our three-part equation takes culture and community seriously, but it also takes the science of learning seriously. Who are the kids? How do they learn? And what do they need to know to really make it in a 21st century international global society? I want to thank everyone who's been involved in all this research. It's tons of people, it's tons of funders, and open it up to your questions.
Amazing. A truly amazing, inspirational keynote. Thank you so much. A little thank you from EARLI for your keynote today. And we do have time for questions.
Have I baffled you all?
Maybe I'll take the chair's prerogative whilst everybody's thinking. One of the things, though, that you showed us is that there's a lot of evidence that playful learning really works.
Yeah.
Right? So it makes me think, like, okay, so what is preventing from this being then implemented in classrooms all over the world?
So I believe there's a lot of things that are preventing it. The first is the word play. And the second is that as a group, I don't think we've been clear enough on what we meant by an educationally focused play. And I think we have to be better at that and be better in our own advocacy. There's, if we tell a teacher just be playful, or we tell an administrator just be playful, what are they going to do about that? They're going to do what they did in Germany, just start bringing more games into the classroom because they don't know what to do. But if we train people on like those 6 behaviors, show them how it aligns with the science, how the human brain learns, I think we have a shot. Our biggest hurdle is probably attitudes. And as you could tell, I added to the guided play vernacular this year, active playful learning, because active sits better than just play.
Right, thank you. Right, we've got a question over there, and then one over there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and sorry, yeah.
Did you want me to start?
Can I start with that? And I'll come to you second if that's okay.
Okay, hi, I'm from New Zealand.
I'm already happy.
our Minister of Education recently said that all brains learn the same, and I just wonder if you think there is perhaps a slight danger for that to be misinterpreted, because, I mean, as you say, in essence they kind of do, but I don't think she meant it in your way of saying it.
I'm pretty familiar with New Zealand, and I'm on a longitudinal study there with Elaine Reese, who you might know. So I would say to you, I'd rather that than the alternative, that brains are different. I think the brains are different leads us into real problems and has led us into discrimination and treating poor kids different than rich kids. I do believe that at 0 to 3, I believe brains are pretty much the same. I believe we have evolved in a way that if we give the right experience expectant behaviors, that is the communication, the dialogues, the back and forth, that's how brains are built. Now, there is wonderful research by Martha Farah and others that by age 3, by age 4, you do start to see differences by income level. But if we can just do that little bit of nuance in New Zealand administration, I think I would rather they start there. We can do it. We can do it. And I think the Early Years Project in New Zealand has a really good shot. And by the way, is doing it with complete respect for the Maori language alongside English. And for those who, you know, in the US, when you say the word bilingual, everyone dies. But we know from the literature that 78% of the world is bilingual, and that it actually, if you want to talk about the best thing you can do for executive function skills, be bilingual. Yeah.
Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation and also for your work that has inspired our work
throughout
actually my career. So we've been doing RCTs on playful learning in our country and found some wonderful results in Norway. And we're
send me all the papers.
Yeah, I will. We've been working with Roberta Golinkoff, your dear friend. And now we're looking into 5th grade data for the 2,000 kids that have joined our RCTs, and we see enduring effects.
Thank you.
But our struggle is our society, because Norwegian preschool teachers, they love play.
Right, and then you get into 1st grade.
yeah. Well, but it's the problem of free play.
Yeah.
Because I'm asking you now for the arguments. I'm just trying to collect arguments because the feedback from the teachers is we're doing this 24/7. We're playing all the time in early childhood. So for the young kids, so we don't need anything because we're doing guided play all along. And so even though we have great results, it's kind of hard to sort of get it into our culture.
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways to go with that. Roberta probably told you all of them because we think with the same mind. But the first is really that our free play results do not show that. And there's a lot of RCTs using free play versus guided play, just not showing it. And I think this idea of adding a clear learning goal and being very clear on what your, whatever 6 behaviors or whatever you're doing your RCT on are, is really going to be the defining feature. Now, the data speaks for itself, I would say, but the other thing you really have to get around with 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, is that they don't believe it. They simply don't believe it. Now, if you want, I had a doctoral student last year who finished her dissertation, Ali Masters, beautiful dissertation, where she, along with, oh my God, who did we work with in China? Well, forget for a moment, but in China, so in Chinese, in English, and in Spanish, we created a questionnaire about play attitudes. So if you want to administer some of that, you might find right there that that's where your problem is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There was another question in the middle, and then over there. So. Thank you.
Thank you for that very inspiring talk. I have some very concrete ideas on how to engage with my own children in play that can support them in their learning.
Good.
However, I'm also curious about how you mentioned being able to implement this with college-level learners.
Yeah.
Of course, we are dealing with a much higher level of abstraction and much more complex information that they're supposed to process. Do you have some advice on how to implement that in acts of playful learning?
Yes, absolutely. So every year, I give the students a chance to help decide what they want the topic to be. I happen to teach psych methods, so it makes it easier because you can teach psych methods on almost anything, but you really can gear it by what's going on in the society around you. So I'm going to be fired this year, so if anyone wants to hire me. I decided the theme this year would be, how do we understand the psychology of hate? Okay, what is it about in-group and out-group? Why is it so attractive to people, so powerful to people, that they fall right in place when this is what the society is suggesting? What I'm going to do, and I do this every year, I have a new theme that will work, is I have lectures about the methodology on the Tuesday class. But on the Thursday class, I let the students lead the discussion with my help on readings that look at the guided play that I have picked out for them, okay? And they have to read how this methodology is actually used to find out something about the question that's being asked. At the end, and I also tell them that while I will give them a grade, I'm grading them on the 6 C's. Okay? So I build every class. Did I have some collaboration? Did I increase their vocabulary and communication? Did I increase their content knowledge? What about their critical thinking and creative way of thinking about it? Did they recognize that it's okay to fail here? Because you can turn the paper in a second time and a third time, as long as you're really trying. So if I do that, I'm building the necessary skills, and it becomes an active playful learning classroom. Yes, thank you.
Hi, thanks for that talk. I have a question about the way that you use the phrase, the science of learning.
Yeah.
Because I think it's quite complex when we think about the evidence on that.
Yeah.
And certainly I'm from the UK, and in our context, the idea of the science of learning evidence often actually is taken to point towards a more knowledge-rich approach or a kind of cognitive load theory approach. And that seems a little bit different from how you were using that idea.
Yeah, I don't use it for cognitive load, but I do use it for knowledge. So what do we know about how people learn that can be informative for educational pedagogy? And I think we actually know a lot. And one of the challenges I have for all of us, my main field is actually language and literacy, and one day I just tried it myself. What do we know? What do we know? If I came up with 6 things that everyone in my field would say, oh yeah, we definitely know that, what would they be? I know I could do it for early number learning and for early language learning. I think we can do it for everything. And if we can, and we can take that knowledge base and turn it into what I call edible science, which is accessible, digestible, and usable, then I think we have a bridge into the education community.
We do have time, so we can ask more questions.
But they can also ask after.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you again for your wonderful talk and work. I was wondering whether you try to adapt your intervention to children with motor disorders or learning special needs, neurodevelopmental disorders.
I asked this, thank you.
And so in this regard, how much do you think that the performance, the success in the games you proposed has an impact on the learning effect that you found?
Yeah, I believe, and we've looked at this a little, but I can't tell you that I've done any studies on it, okay? But the research out of autism, at least, suggests that when you use playful instructional methods, kids feel more included. So anytime that you give more inroads into understanding something, you actually get better performance from people who are different and who have neurological divergence. I'll say especially for kids with ADD, I mean, these kids get a chance to thrive in these environments. Sitting down, listening to somebody talk at them all the time is like, you know, help. Yeah, so thank you for that. At least that would be our prediction according to what's out there in the literature.
Hi, Kathy. I'm Fiona from Australia. Hello.
How you doing,
G'day.
Fiona? G'day.
Thank you for your keynote. It was really inspiring and lovely to hear about your work. In Australia, we are facing similar things, I think, to the US with a push down of curriculum and the erosion of play.
Yeah.
I wondered if you had included in your studies the voices of children and children's perspectives at all.
Yes, part of our community work does include the voices of children, I'm happy to say. Also, the good news for Australia is that Posse Salberg is there. And so at least in the south of Australia, I think they're making progress. You're right, the rest of the country still push down curriculum, but I'm feeling like we can get there. And I saw some examples from schools recently because I was judging the school playfulness stuff, and it was fabulous. Yeah.
I've got two questions at the front here.
Hello,
Go ahead.
can I?
Sorry.
Hey, yeah, it's my turn. So I just wonder because, first of all, thank you very much for your presentation. And you have mentioned that actually there were 80% of time children are spending out of school.
Right.
So I believe that home environment is a very big piece of that one. So do you have any further kind of plan to how to get parents more involved in this home environment, or any other kind of suggestion for that part? Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you for asking. We do have one of our scientists is working on that very question. I haven't done it. But what we are finding is that when we're in these playful learning environments, the parents put their phones down and they start engaging with their kids. So in a way, we're providing models, which is super exciting. And I think if we provide it, they will come, so to speak. So, you know, there's still a whole field for you guys to research. And really, all of this is here for you to research. And any way we can be of help in helping you bring this to your communities, just let us know. We're totally there for you.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the structured nature of the education. Of course, today the school education is very structured, so I think the play concept is extremely important, and I think that can create a buffer.
Yeah.
But of course, I was also thinking, because any guidance is still a structure.
Yeah.
It's like you put like a valid date on food, and then you always you lose the sensibility of being able to distinguish what is actually still good to eat, but what is actually bad. So I was just wondering if you have also some research into like a natural play or like a play with unguided materials.
Yeah, and please note that we think free play is really important. We think you should still have recess. All we're saying is if you have a learning goal. Now, the more structured is what I call playful learning instruction, as opposed to what we're calling guided play. In guided play, the kid still has agency. In playful learning instruction, you've taken that away. So it's not just about putting play, you know, instruction in play clothes. That's not enough. It was also tried in Germany. It doesn't work, okay? It's still direct instruction, even if you dress it up. One person once called it chocolate-covered broccoli, okay? And that's not what you want. Free play is still important, so don't ever think I'm taking that away.
Yeah, I was wondering if you have any work on stimulating that, because, for instance, in many countries now you have like a school which
Right,
is certain
right.
hour, but then because parents need to work
Yeah,
full time, so
yeah,
then
yeah.
they have after school care.
Yeah.
And then they are introducing again guided play in that aftercare. So I was just wondering if you have any good experience from like different countries that you can kind of ensure that the kids get a chance to do free play.
Ensure is tough. But yeah, we're doing some work in South Korea right now with a student of mine, where it's exactly that. After school, they go to the next school, then they go to the next school, and they go to the next school. And, you can't ensure it, but what you can do is show people the advantages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Kati. Thank you very much for the talk.
Thanks, Bob.
Just a little, first an announcement. Just everybody, if anybody doesn't know, we have a new SIG, Play SIG. So we are SIG 28. So check us out and join us. And now my question for you.
Yeah.
So we in Chile we have kindergartens
Right.
that are supposed to be now from 2018, according to the Ministry of Education, playful.
Yeah.
But they are not. They are not playful. And my colleague here, Valesca Grau, actually tried to do an intervention with preschool teachers that attend 4 to 6 year olds, and the teachers were not engaging with it. So, so how do you change attitudes? How do you change that
it takes dose.
knowledge?
And that's why we went to a coaching model. It won't happen on a half-hour intervention. Just won't. Yeah. If it's okay with you, I'm going to break and take people afterwards as private questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Another bathroom break.
all right, yes. So we're going to stop here, but Kathy will be available later on for more questions. So if you just hang around, I just want to give her a big round of applause for a fantastic keynote.